world, if you ask me. If the cancer doesn't get me, they certainly will. On May 10th of 2014, the day before Mother's Day, I was diagnosed with stage 3 nasopharyngeal carcinoma. Say that 10 times real fast and see what happens. Nasopharyngeal carcinoma, or NPC, is an extremely rare cancer. Basically, there is a tumor in my nasal passage that happens to be pressing up against my brain. It is most noted in the Asian part of the world. It is their breast cancer. 1 in 100,000 people in a westernized country get this cancer. I guess I was the lucky one. There's only one way of treatment for this cancer, and the entire rest of 2014 was spent being treated for it. Ultimately, I ended up spending over 100 days in Bayonne Medical Center. I had only one symptom of this cancer, and that started around January of 2014. I totally lost all hearing in my left ear. Having 2 children that were in school, I naturally thought it was an ear infection. Apparently, so did my primary care physician, as well as my ENT. My primary doctor prescribed me with antibiotics and anti-inflammatories, as she did see some swelling and asked me to come back to see her in 2 weeks. I did go back, and still no hearing, no change. Keep in mind, I was not in any pain, I just could not hear. It started to become a hindrance at my place of work. At my second visit, she told me it's time to see an ENT, and I made the appointment. He too prescribed me antibiotics and anti-inflammatories, as he too saw some swelling but no idea what it was. I needed to go back and see him in 3 weeks. My next appointment was scheduled on May 8th of 2014, which was great because I was driving home from work on a Jersey Turnpike on May 7th, and I heard a pop in my head, an actual pop. The next thing you know, I have double vision in my left eye. As I'm approaching the toll booth at 16W, I realized I can see 3 toll booths. Which one is the real one and which 2 are the ones I don't want to crash into is the question. Well, I put my hand over my left eye and I got the correct toll booth, thank goodness. Drove all the way home with my one eye covered and my hazard lights on. As the night grew longer, so did my fear, and a severe headache ensued. The next day was my second appointment with my ENT. The appointment could not come soon enough. I was in so much pain and I couldn't see correctly. My husband and I get to the ENT and he puts the scope up my nose and down my throat. And bam, there it is. The doctor actually hit my tumor with the scope. I was told, okay, go home. Say goodbye to your girls and meet me at St. Barnabas in Livingston. You're having emergency brain surgery tonight. You can imagine what was going through my mind. What? Brain surgery? Say goodbye to my kids? What the hell are you talking about? At the time, going home, saying goodbye to my girls was what I thought would be the hardest thing I would ever have to do in my life. Little did I know what I was in for over the next 7 months. I'm not sure anyone diagnosed with cancer knows exactly what they are in for. The next 7 months were purgatory for me. They were pure hell. As I said earlier, there is only one treatment for this type of cancer. It didn't seem to matter whether I was in Sloan Kettering or New York or Bayonne. I was going to get the same exact treatment. I decided staying in Bayonne would be better for me, as we do have 2 little girls, and the commute would be easier for my husband and any visitors I may have. The first order of business was getting a feeding tube put into my stomach, of which is still there today. Second order of business was a port that is directly attached to my heart for my medication and my chemotherapy treatments. So as of 10 months later, I have 2 foreign objects still in my body. When they come out is anyone's guess. On Tuesday, May 27th, 2014, I was admitted into the hospital to begin what would be the fight of my life. 1 week on as an inpatient of 5 days, 24 hours a day of chemo, then 2 weeks off. I get to go home if I could. Then 5 days on again, and 2 weeks off again, and so on and so on. When that is all over, I'll start 33 radiation treatments every Monday through Friday for 7 weeks, wearing a mesh mask. Johnny, if you can hold that up. Over my face, and had it tied, my head tied and locked to a table. We'll get back to that radiation later on. My first week of treatment, I wish somebody would have warned me of what to expect, but then again, every patient handles treatment differently. I had the biggest room with 3 beds in it, and I was alone. I was truly alone for the first time in my life, except for the thousands of bees and spiders I thought were crawling on the walls. Hallucinations that nobody would warn me of. No one warned me that my entire life was going to pass through my eyes, and this was only on the very first day of treatment. I saw pictures in my head of people I knew, some who are no longer with me, some I've never met before. So immediately, I began to think of only 2 things. Are these people I'm going to meet in my lifetime when I beat cancer, or are these people that I will meet when I die in the next few days and pass over to the next life? These are questions that would haunt me while in treatment. See, someone once told me in the very beginning of my journey that cancer is a battle of mental wits and not so much physical. It's 80% mental and 20% physical, and I tend to agree. The mental anguish that I went through was something I wish no one ever has to experience. This was truly a mental game for me, and it still is, believe it or not. As for my first week of treatment, I went in on a Tuesday and was released on a Sunday. On that Monday, an ambulance was called to my home as my eyes rolled in the back of my head and I lost total consciousness. In front of my 3-year-olds, I might add. I spent the next 5 days in the hospital missing my daughter's graduation from pre-K. Something you never ever get over is missing these important milestones for your children. But I was advised that there would be many, many more milestones and I need to get better to experience them all. This was what gave me the strength to move forward. My doctor explained to my husband that a man double the size of me would not have been able to handle my treatment because it was so aggressive. After all, NPC is an aggressive cancer and needs to be treated as such. Shortly into my treatment, Team Pam was born. My loving husband had t-shirts made up that some are wearing tonight, made up for our family of 4 with Team Pam on the front and a shirt and a saying, "Make each day your masterpiece" on the back. I, of course, right away posted these shirts on Facebook and thanked my husband. These shirts came in handy for the next event to take place in my battle, the inevitable hair event. You know, that telling sign of cancer when one's hair starts to fall out. Yes, my hair started to fall out in clumps. Yes, I cried in the shower as the hair just fell out of my scalp so easily. But I didn't cry as much as I thought I would. I was eerily calm when it happened. It was a surreal experience for sure. As a family, we ultimately made the decision together, or rather my girls did, that we're going to the beauty salon, all wearing our Team Pam shirts, and I'm getting a boy's haircut for the first time in my life. Again, another surreal experience. I woke up the next morning and yes, hair was still all over my bed sheets and pillowcase. I looked at my husband and we made another decision. I'm going to shave my hair completely off. It's the one thing I can control instead of letting cancer make that decision. Believe me, you take those control issues and you knock them out of the park when you get the chance because cancer doesn't give you those chances too often. Later that day, we cranked some music and as a family, my husband and 2 daughters all took a turn and shaved my head. Yes, we actually handed a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old an electric razor to shave my head. It was awesome, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. In fact, I encourage everyone to shave their heads just for the hell of it. It's liberating, at least it was for me. Shortly after my first week of treatment and my hair shaving event, a friend of mine, Mary Campbell Mellon, who is here tonight, made a Facebook page and named it appropriately Team Pam after the t-shirts. Ultimately, this page became a saving grace for me. With over 400 people on his page, I had more than enough people pulling for me and praying for me. I had people from all over the world rooting for me. Britain, Spain, Wales, Germany. Most notably were my friends from England. The last time I saw them was 10 years ago. They held a fundraiser for me and sent us money to use for Christmas gifts as both my husband and I had been out of work since May 8th of 2014 because of the cancer. It's amazing what the human spirit can do when someone is in a crisis. The one thing that a cancer patient needs for sure is support. One cannot conquer cancer alone. It becomes a group effort. This is why we're all here tonight, isn't it? To become part of the team effort to conquer cancer. As my treatment went on, I would lose the strength, I battled fatigue, and I still do at this present time. I would become increasingly depressed, and every thought became about death. What would happen to my children? How will my husband cope without me? Will I die in my sleep? Will I know when it's time so I can say goodbye? That fear almost came to fruition on June 25th. After a great morning visit with a very old friend of mine, it went downhill after he left. It was an entire night battle, either I live or I die. My blood pressure was deathly low and the nurses couldn't get it up the entire night. I was constantly calling my husband on the phone. He couldn't be with me that day because we couldn't find a babysitter. I would beg him to stay on the phone with me because I didn't want to die alone. Think about that for a second. You're in the hospital where you should be. You had an amazing visit with a dear friend. And the remainder of the day and night, you're absolutely convinced you're going to die because you feel so incredibly bad. And your blood pressure is so incredibly low. And there isn't a damn thing anyone or anything can do about it. All I could do was cry and again beg my husband to stay on the phone with me. Just breathe on the phone. He could go to sleep. I just wanted him to breathe on the phone so that I'm not dying alone. I've never been so scared before in all of my life. Cancer just had to remind me who was in control that day. I believe my very first post on Facebook on the morning of June 22nd was something to the effect of, I've never been so happy to see morning in my entire life. I made it through the night. That's where Team Pam's support group came in and took over and joined the fight against cancer with me. Somehow, some way, a flash mob was assembled outside the hospital. A tiny flash mob, but a flash mob nonetheless. A group of my friends, some that are here tonight, and strangers riding down the block, just stopped, got out of their cars, and danced underneath my hospital window. It was also a honk for horn effort for Pam. Several folks over the course of a couple of weeks would ride by the hospital and beep. If I had the strength to get out of bed, I would, and take a picture of whoever was outside my window. I consider myself very lucky with the amount of support that I received. It got me through the saddest and most painful of days for me. I realized I was still in the early stages of treatment. I was going to need all the support I could get. My continuing treatment rendered me with mouth sores, nausea, insomnia, massive head pain. I wasn't able to eat anything the conventional way through my mouth. Everything had, at this point, had to go through my peg tube or feeding tube, if you will. All of my medications had to be crushed and put through the tube. The few times that I was not in the hospital, my husband was injecting me every 4 hours with shots of Dilaudid, which is essentially synthetic heroin, one of the strongest painkillers you can get. I was in so much pain throughout my battle, Dilaudid became my best friend. You know you're not in Kansas anymore when your 3-year-old schedules herself to wake up every 4 hours in the middle of the night to hold your hands while daddy puts a shot of medicine in your arm, kiss you, and then scurry back to bed, all while naked, I might add. The 3-year-old, not me. Cancer truly changes the family in all ways possible. Your family will never be the same again, and why should it be, right? A loved one is diagnosed with the most horrendous disease that anyone can imagine. It should change the family. It should change your very core. I know it did mine. I'm not the same person I was before May 10th, 2014. Whether I change for the better or worse is yet to be determined. I guess you can ask my husband for his opinion, or maybe not. Maybe I don't want to hear it. The next few months were more of the same. There was not a week that went by the entire summer I wasn't visiting the ER, being admitted because I was so incredibly sick. I've never been away from my children for these long periods of time, or my husband for that matter. He became the mom as well as dad. Even when it was a rare night or extended period of time that I was not in the hospital, he was still Mr. Mom, as well as daddy, because I was rendered incapacitated and could do absolutely nothing for anyone. July 21st, 2014 was my first day of radiation. Again, no one warned me for what I was about to experience, and I thought chemotherapy was hard. 33 radiation treatments, which entailed my head and face to be covered by that mesh mask, and ultimately bolted and tied to a table, so it rendered me immobile. At this point in time, I was getting radiation, which coincided with chemotherapy treatments, 2 excruciatingly hard treatments to deal with, alone, let alone both at the same time. Nor did any of these treatments stop me from going to the ER. In fact, they upped the ante, one might say. Along with the effects of chemotherapy, new effects were waiting in the wings to slowly start. The radiation was literally cooking me from the inside out. My throat was evidence of this, from the burning scar left around my neck and the peeling skin. I do have some pictures if you want to come see the beauty of cancer. At one point, I was surprisingly home. I was watching a movie and started to feel burning on my face and neck. I went to the mirror to see what was happening, and before my very eyes, I was watching fever blisters appear on my face and ultimately pop right in front of me. Another surreal experience. That for sure is one thing there is no shortage of with cancer, surreal experiences. They are in abundance. Not only was I getting cooked, but the ultimate happened. I had no usage of my vocal cords. Some may say that might have them dancing in the streets with excitement. For me, it was just another telltale sign of how cancer robs you of everything. By this time, I am completely using my feeding tube. Ensure became my meal of choice and basically the only thing I was living on. And one can say I am still there. It's only a handful of items that I can eat presently, still to this day. My radiation treatments ended on September 5th, 2014. In fact, all of my treatment was considered done by the beginning of September. My last chemo session was September 4th. Now that all my treatment was over, I thought I was in the clear and would be on the road to recovery. Little did I know what the treatment side effects were going to do to me over the next few months. I spent the majority of September and October in the hospital. It is these 2 months that I lost my original 64.4 pound weight loss, which, sad to say, I was really, really, really happy about. The doctors, on the other hand, were not. See, you need the fat in order to fight your cancer and the effects. I happen to be losing all of my fat. Perhaps that is one reason why on a Sunday morning in September, I again almost lost my life. Sadly, right before my husband and girls walked into my room, I took a turn for the worse. The doctor had to tell my family to go and wait in the family room until he gives the all clear. It was this critical time that my husband says he saw me at my worst. For a good week, I had no idea who I was, where I was, or who anyone was that came to visit. I had no idea what I was saying and to who I was saying it to. I fell completely out of it and ended up having a Dilaudid pump attached to me for 2 weeks. Just imagine, I can press a button at any time, all by myself, and I would be injected with Dilaudid. After I started to become myself again, I decided having that pump was not a really good idea for me. I wanted it taken out, and everybody agreed. There were consequences of taking such a strong drug, and believe me, I experienced each and every one of them. It was like whatever bad effect cancer could give you, she did. She threw everything at me that she can. I'm not sure why I'm referring to cancer as a she, but maybe it's because most of the women I know are tough in general, and will give you a run for your money. And yes, cancer is one tough cookie. Even though I finished with my treatments, I still found myself 5 days a week in my oncologist's office getting hydration. A major issue for me was hydration. Daily, I was in my doctor's office for 6 to 8, sometimes 10 hours every day, Monday through Friday. Can you imagine going through all those treatments throughout the summer and having 2 small children, a husband, a home to take care of? And I'm still at the doctor's office every day for hours and hours getting hydration because cancer literally will not give up the fight against me to take me to my grave. Finally, on December 10th, exactly 7 minutes to the day that I was first diagnosed with nasopharyngeal carcinoma, it all came to a head. I was finally given the word everybody was waiting for. I was finally diagnosed as being cancer-free. December 10th was my last day of hydration. October 30th, I was released from the hospital on my last